Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live video. My name is Ryan Blue Bowen. Thank you for joining me here today. We are going to be talking about a big match at King of the Table 4. It's a replacement match. It's got Alex Kurdecha up against Dave Chaffee, King of the Table 4. This will be a clash of titans, to say the least. We've got the Polish giant up against the absolute titan that is Dave Chaffee. He's been doing it for a long time. So that's what today's show is going to be about, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be focusing purely on that one. Kurdecha, Chaffee, we're going to have polls. We want to hear your thoughts as well. I want to know, who are you backing in this one? Who deserves to be favourite? What's it going to mean to the world ranks? How's the style of the match going to go? Can Dave Chaffee do it? Will Kurdecha rise to the top? All these questions we're going to answer and more. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live stream. All right, let's kill the music and let's get it underway. All right, there we go. What's going on, everyone? Just experimenting with the musical intros and all sort of stuff. Hope everyone's well. We're right here on YouTube Live. I've got a different camera. I don't know if you can tell. I'm using a different lens. Let me know. Do you like this lens or the other lens that I usually use? Anyway, this one allows me to get a little bit closer to you guys and talk to you a bit up close. As I say, good day to everyone who is joining us now in the chat. I can see 613 Chapman, Everett Duncan, Josh Barker, Consi, Papuna Official. Lots going on. Yeah, I'm going to start straight away with the poll, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just get the poll out for you guys. Because this, like I said, who takes it? Dave Chaffee v. Kurdecha is the topic of this video today. Who takes it? All right. Poll incoming, guys. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll let you know mine. Dave Chaffee of the USA up against Alex Kurdecha. Big match. All right. Asking you guys now, I'm going to see what your thoughts are as I give you mine. What do we have here, says Holly. Holly, welcome to the show. What we're talking about in this one is we're going to focus purely on Dave Chaffee and Alex Kurdecha. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions as well. But let's set the scene a little bit first. This is a King of the Table 3 event. Core Sports, King of the Table, Dubai, Larry Wheels, all of those things have brought us this amazing event. Now, of course, Alex Kurdecha was interestingly preparing for Vitaly Laletin, but the events of the world have led to that not being possible, and Dave Chaffee has stepped in. Now, interestingly, Dave Chaffee's last match was none other than Levan Saakashvili, where Levan did crunch Dave Chaffee. Kurdecha's last match, Hermes Gasparini, where he crunched Hermes, and then Hermes has since crunched Gennady, and Gennady has since crunched Michael, and you can start to draw all sorts of crazy things from these. And interestingly, looking at the poll, guys, so far we've got 71% of people saying Alex Kurdecha is the favorite. And I got to say it, I do agree. Alex is the favorite, but there's so much more to it than simply saying Alex Kurdecha is going to win. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it. So for this one, where I want to start and where I think we need to go for this one, in order to make some sense of this match, we need to, first of all, think about the biomechanics of this match, the shape of the athlete's offense and defense, and where that will lead us under the rule sets that is King of the Table 4, because all of these things matter. All of these things matter. Both of these guys are yet to pull under the King of the Table banner, so no one has the advantage of familiarity. It's going to come down to just who's the better arm wrestler? Who is stronger? Now, Dave Chaffee, let's talk about him first. Dave Chaffee is a man who has been very consistent for a large number of years now. About, 10 years, Dave Chaffee has been at the pointy end of the super heavyweight division. Very consistently recognized as one of the strongest arm wrestlers on earth, Dave Chaffee. The right arm of Dave Chaffee, easy money. He's got victories everywhere. Victories everywhere. Losing to Devin Larratt in that WAL match where he lost to Devin's King's move caused more arguments in the arm wrestling world than I've ever seen before. He did lose it, but it did look like he was still fundamentally stronger. If we look at Dave Chaffee training with Todd Hutchins, who we know is in amazing form, Dave Chaffee is still just rolling through Todd Hutchins like he's in another level. Todd Hutchins unable to really affect Dave Chaffee at all. So Dave Chaffee is strong. We know he's strong. He's a simple mover. He doesn't have a elaborate technique on the table. He's very much a just, I'm going to grab you, especially if it's in the straps. I'm going to grab you. He can flat wrist arm wrestle very, very effectively. If it goes into a hook, he's got amazing side pressure. His rotation is different. John Brzenk describes Dave Chaffee's rotation as an awkward twist. It's very different from that of a deep cup rotation. Alex Kurdecha, on the other hand, the bigger of the two humans. I mean, I'm not sure what Dave Chaffee's going to be weighing for this one. I expect about 280 pounds, where Alex Kurdecha, you can expect upwards of the 330, 340 pounds. Alex Kurdecha's an enormous athlete. I think Alex Kurdecha is the biggest of all of the arm wrestlers in the world at the moment. When we talk about not only height, but thickness, width, wrist size, shoulder depth, chest depth, Alex is a monster, and he's just seemingly waking up. Alex Kurdecha, of course, in the past years gone by, we saw him take losses to people like Krasimir Kostadinov and Kurdecha Ongabayev, but seemingly Alex has dramatically evolved since then. What he did to Hermes Gasparini is our best indication of where he's at. What he did to Ryan Espy as well at Arm Wars. Alex Kurdecha seems to be the most popular vote for who will be the number one ranked arm wrestler in the world in a couple of years' time. People think that Alex Kurdecha will surpass Levan, and for good reason, because that physicality of Alex seems to have such a significant base level that we know there is still plenty of upside to go. So then we come back to it. All right, that's the context of the backstory of who these guys are, what they're going to be dealing with when they face each other in a historical sense. But then what does it come down to on the day? What's the shape of this match going to look like? Because before we can determine who's going to win it, we need to say, how's it going to go? Okay. How is it going to go? I think this match will go to straps. I don't think either of these guys is sufficiently strong enough to hold on to the other and pin them. I don't think so. I think both of these guys have a tendency for back pressure, which is going to lead to a slip. Dave is someone who will like to clamp. Kurdecha is someone who will dump and roll. I don't think that combination of lead aces is going to result in a pin out of straps, particularly in the early rounds. Maybe in the later rounds if there's fatigue or it's particularly one-sided. But if it is fresh round one, I expect these guys, big slip, a lot of tension in the hands. I think it's likely that Alex takes the wrist a little bit of Dave, and Dave sort of dump slips with a flop as he goes. I don't expect Dave to be able to hold on to the rising back pressure. Hermes Gasparini couldn't do it, but Dave is a little bit taller than Hermes Gasparini, so the arm is longer. I think Dave is 6'2". Alex Kurdecha something like 6'6", 6'7". I don't know, something enormous. I have met the guy; he's a giant. But Dave a little bit taller than Hermes, and Dave with great clamping ability. He should have enough threat to get to the straps. Now, in the straps, we have to start asking the question, what is the lead strategy of each of these guys? The lead strategy of Dave Chaffee is usually pretty clear. Get tied to the guy, make a strong fist, and back pressure pronation, twisting pronation. He really twists from down here into that strap, almost just like that. There's no real bending of the wrist from Dave Chaffee. He just stays rigid and center and twists you over to the side. Now, Alex Kurdecha on the other stand, he's going to be dropping that wrist. He's going to be levering off the tricep. He's going to be using that enormous back pressure that he has, and he's going to be then looking to compromise and roll. That's how the match is going to go in terms of the intent of each of these athletes off the go. Now, when that happens, who dictates the lane is the next question we need to ask. Now, I think the answer is Alex Kurdecha will dictate the lane. I don't see the lane going this way for Dave Chaffee. I see the lane going, oh, there goes my wrist. Now, the match is a long way from over. If we think about Alex Kurdecha's matches in the past, when he has been able to take the wrist of Krasimir Kostadinov and Kurdecha Ongabayev, albeit we know he's evolved since then, When he took the risks of those people, he still had to work a lot in order to get the pins. He still ultimately lost to both of those guys, even though he was taking the risk of them. Alex Kurdecha is very intuitive. He understands that when he takes the wrist, he has to transition to a press to finish. He doesn't often have the side pressure once he's fully pronated. If there is any weakness to Alex Kurdecha's game, that's a weakness that I see, is that his side pressure once fully pronated is not there yet, not to the same degree in which all these other attributes are. His raw rising pressure is clearly elite of elite, but his side pressure at fully pronated seems to be a little lagging behind that of his other pressures. And that will be something that will happen against Dave, because Dave is stronger than Ongabayev. Dave is stronger than Krasimir Kostadinov. We've seen Dave pin Krasimir without breaking a sweat. He's never faced Ongabayev, as far as I'm aware. But Dave Chaffee clearly is just a fundamentally stronger human than those two guys that we just described. So when Kurdecha busts back the wrist of Dave Chaffee in the straps, which I suspect will happen, there's still going to be a very strong rigidness right here, where Kurdecha takes his wrist, but right there, the connection through the bicep and the back pressure of Dave Chaffee will still be alive, and it will refuse to just give up the match. Now, here's where the match gets interesting. At that point in time, Kurdecha's leave it off the table. He's pronated and he's popped the wrist of Dave Chaffee. Dave Chaffee's here, and when the straps, press, pause, balance. All right. At this point in time, we start to ask questions about endurance. We start to ask questions about technical decision making, and we start to really enjoy the arm wrestle. I personally hope the match pauses right there and neither guy can do anything about it. I hope that Alex can't finish, and I hope that Dave can't get out, but that Dave has sufficient pressure to prevent a pin, and Kurdecha has sufficient pressure to prevent Dave from turning it into a hook. I think that balance will happen, and when that balance happens, it's going to be very interesting because Dave Chaffee is not typically someone who is technically diverse. He doesn't have a lot of things outside of being strong in his pronation and strong in his hook. I mean, Dave may open arm it a little bit and try to rise and roll from there, which would be interesting because given that Kurdecha is the taller, longer hand, it's going to be hard to do anything that it's going to be hard for Dave under any circumstances to take the wrist of Kurdecha, given the size difference. Where Dave does have the opportunities if he gets over the pronation, if the pronation of Alex Kurdecha starts to become fatigued, then Dave Chaffee will have the ability to get over there on top of that and then get control and add that significant side pressure. But like we said, come ready, go. It's most likely that Kurdecha leaves off the pad, pops back the wrist of Dave Chaffee, and the match stops here because Kurdecha lacks this pronated side pressure, and you're going to start to see Kurdecha looking for a means or a method to get to a press. You're going to see him, he'll test for side pressure. If it fails, he'll start returning to back pressure to try to get further up in his hands. He'll then add pronation again, take the wrist a little more. He'll then test again. And the thing is, there's an end to that rope. He will probably be able to rise and pronate, rise and pronate, rise and pronate. But there will come a time where the strap just holds you in and says you can't go any further. And if it gets to that point and Kurdecha can't transition to the press, then we're just in a battle of lactic acid tolerance and just heart and will to win. YouTube censoring comments says hopefully Ryan will get an analysis right soon. Trust me, I'm getting an analysis right. This one's right. This is how I think it's going to go. Now, who wins from there? Oh man, you have to say Kurdecha is in the driving seat. If that's where a match stops, if that's the shape of the match and the way it goes, Kurdecha's in the driving seat. There's less grounds for errors to occur from here than there is from here. Dave Chaffee is going to be backed into a corner. And Dave Chaffee, if he's here, is going to have to really move at the right time in the right way in order to gain back this wrist and somehow force it in. Dave Chaffee will be able to use pressures like this. Okay, sorry. Again, Dave Chaffee could use pressures like this. If his pronation is set there, as Kurdecha goes to rise and look for those regrips, there's a little down pressure to separate because lats are stronger than biceps always. It's the risk though is if Dave Chaffee drags down like this, that he loses more palm up, and if he loses more palm up, that gives Kurdecha what he needs in the ability to finish with the press. So timing of that movement is so critical if Dave Chaffee is to attempt to do it. Now, Kurdecha, on the other hand, if he's in this position and he's testing for side, and not getting through because the arm of Dave Chaffee is still in the way, then he's going to start to feel shoulder fatigue. He's going to start to feel bicep brachialis fatigue, and he's going to start to look to have to time his attempted regrips. He's going to learn, he's going to have to try to ramp the pressure down. Often when you're overpronated and you can't finish, forcing it is a bad move. Often when you're in that position, you have to relax because you've got control of the hand. You can't really lose control of the hand. You just breathe and you ramp down the pressures. And as you ramp down the pressures, your opponent, because they're in a red line position, they'll 9 times out of 10 ramp down with you. And when they ramp down with you, you can then start to do subtle, little tiny Devin Larratt style, just conversational. You can start talking to your opponent as you're regripping because you've ramped down the pressure. Will we see that from Alex? Is he that advanced yet that he can start to do those things? Or will he be redlining? I hope we see the ramp down and the chat and the talk and the climb and little minor movements. And then once he sees control of those things, Kurdecha can turn the active back on, test again, and see where he's at. All in all, this has potential to be one of the most entertaining matches. It is a match where the results give us a great update to the world rankings. And by the way, guys, whilst I got 94 of you here, hit the like button for me. You guys know that it helps the YouTube channel grow and get to a new audience. So please hit that like button for me. But this match really does have the opportunity to give a great update to the world rankings. A lot of people, like we said at the start of the show, believe that Kurdecha will be the man 2 years from now. That 2 years from now, Kurdecha is the number one rank. Dave Chaffee has very consistently been in that top 5 of the world ranks, at least. Let's say that. He's very consistently respected over the last 10 years as a top guy. He's been as high as probably number 2 in the world at one stage, only behind that of Andrei Pushkar on the right arm. He's been always there. And so this will give a great indication of the updated world ranks, and it's something that we're all going to enjoy. So I'm going to ask you guys another question on the poll now, and then I'm going to turn my attention to your comments. We'll end that poll there. 72% of the first poll, 72% of people have voted for Kurdecha as the favorite in this one. And like we said, I think he does deserve to be the favorite in that one. So thank you for everyone there who voted in that one. All right, I'm going to ask you guys another poll, and we'll see where this one goes. Okay. Does King of the Table rules assist? Who there? Oh, I said it's a different way. Who does King of the Table's rules assist more? I want to know your answer to that one. Kurdecha or Chaffee? I asked this question because ultimately we are under King of the Table rules, which is a different format for both these guys. No one has pulled this format out of these two guys yet. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. All right. So who does King of the Table rules assist more? Vote now, and I will see what you guys think. And as you guys do that, I'll give you my answer to that one as well. As the votes come in so far, 67% of you are saying Kurdecha, 33% saying Chaffee. And look, I'm going to say I agree with you. The reason I agree that it is an advantage to Kurdecha is simply because he is the man that is hunting the wrist. He is the man that is looking to climb and regrips his game. Remember when we talked about when the match stops, what was it that Kurdecha needs to do? Regrip. What was it that Chaffee needed to do? Okay, he needs to keep that hand purchased, tight, secure. King of the table rules are not as rigid as a PAL system. Dave Chaffee, I think, does better under a very rigid rules scenario. Kurdecha, I think he will like the more sloppy it is, the better it is for Kurdecha. He will like the pronation and the rise and the roll and the room to move. Kurdecha is going to be doing this. King of the table, the sloppier it is, the better. The running fouls are interesting. Again, Dave Chaffee is not an endurance man. Dave Chaffee wants to get the job done very quickly. He would prefer restarts. Dave is not a guy that likes to necessarily have to pin to get the restart. He would just prefer to say, oh, there was an elbow bubble there. Let's just go again. He is a dragster. Kurdecha, less of a dragster and has more technical range to his ability to keep going and to take advantage of the running foul rule. So in my opinion, and only in look at that now. If I look at the vote, 52% of you disagree with me. 52% are saying it advantages Chaffee. But it had 48% on Kurdecha. Interesting down the line split there from you guys who are watching. I do think, however, firmly that it does advantage Alex Kurdecha. But at the end of the day, I don't expect it to be too significant. These are just small factors that we can consider. Anyway, all right, I'm going to end that poll there. So, guys, I'm going to now turn my attention to your comments. We'll stick around for about 5 minutes more. If you've got a question you want from me, keep it on the theme of Dave Chaffee Kurdecha. But I'll have a look now at your comments and see if there's anything juicy there that we can expand on as well. And then we'll wind up the show. Let's have a look. Okay, scrolling back up. Dave Chaffee will win 100-0 against Devon if the illegal under the table foul move. Okay, that's an interesting comment. I don't think we're going to see. That's from Pab Naffel. I don't think we're going to see a King's move from Kurdecha. He does have a great open arm top roll, but I don't expect it to see. I expect him to use that great fundamental back pressure and pronation that he's got. What else we got here? Mike Rossa, what happened to the Kurdecha versus Vitali match? Well, given all the world events that's going on, you can imagine that it's difficult to travel from Russia. So that's what happened. What else we got? Dave has too much side pressure, says Wayward Son. Interesting stuff there. Dave is known. Of course, John Brzezinski has famously said that Dave Chaffee has more difficult side pressure than anyone else that he's felt before. Interesting stuff. Good comment. This will, of course, be happening at King of the Table 3. Jed Stewell making mention of that. Best pronation wins, says Nate's PNW Adventures. Best pronator wins, my money on Alex. Yeah, Alex does have. What makes Alex's pronation so amazing is the leverage that he's got, that he comes off with a huge bicep back pressure off the table, gets quite low, sits down in the chair, and levers off the table. And with the thick wrist and the giant bone structure that he's got, it becomes incredibly dangerous pronation. So I agree that it's likely that the hand goes back on Dave Chaffee. Alex winning makes arm wrestling more interesting as a whole, says Nick. I agree. Alex is the man of the moment. He's the guy that everyone thinks is going to be number one over the next few years. If he gets the win on Dave Chaffee, it's a very big step in that direction. Jed Stewell says he doesn't think the rules are a problem for either. As we get a super chat in from Nashville Arm Wrestling with $5. Thank you very much, Nashville Arm Wrestling, for the $5 super chat. He asks or says this: how many kilos of quadratic side pressure do you have on a parallel pulley when Mercury is in retrograde? Love that. Have a good day, Blue. Yeah, absolutely. I think the quadratic side pressure has been beautiful. I would love to see. I would love to see the quadratic fist with both these guys. I think they'd both be bending it a long way. And in fact, Sabin Badalescu actually called me just prior to this live where he's sending me a new one. He said, Ryan, I'm sending you another spring that's 50% harder again than the one you've got. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to move that thing a millimeter. And he said, that's the idea. He said, it's literally, you won't move it more than 2 centimeters. But anyway, thank you for the Nashville Arm Wrestling for the $5 super chat. Man, I appreciate it. Thank you, brother. 42 Chaffee says Master Chef Devo. Interesting. I think the scoreline is likely Oh, a few people saying, oh, I see it. Alex McDonald says 6-0 Chafee. 3WOD says 6-0 Kurdecha. Do you think 3WOD says, do you think Kurdecha's hand and wrist rivals Levan's? Good question there. I think that the wrist, yes. I think the thickness of the fingers of Levan is still more. He's been arm wrestling longer, and that does bring with it just a just a degree of thickness that's crazy. The bone structure, I don't know what it is, but go and look at a farmer's hand, they get thick. Levan's been arm wrestling a lot longer than Kurdecha. His hands are thick. However, the wrist, when we look at the wrist, the just genetic frame of Alex Kurdecha is in fact a bigger frame than that of Levan's. Even though Levan and Kurdecha are going to be a very similar weight for this match, not like as if they're facing yet. I'm sure we will see it in the future, but the wrist of Kurdecha, I think, is as big, if not bigger, than Levan's, given just the natural genetic monster that Kurdecha is. But good question there. All right, what else we got? I think the straps will help Chafee more than Kurdecha, says Simon Sariola. Yeah, good point there, and I agree with you, especially if the straps are tight. If the straps are really tight, if it gets literally in there like that, that really supports Dave Chafee's flat-wristed position, because at the end of the day, Dave Chaffee just wants to get tied to his opponent and make it about side pressure. If the more loose the strap is, the more likely this is going to happen. There's more room to move for the pronation. There's more room to move for the levering back pressure that Alex Kurdecha possesses. Dave Chaffee wants this strap to be really, really, really tight. He wants to get his palm as close to his opponent as he can. He doesn't want to have any gaps in between the wrists. Literally, he wants to be tied like this if he could. That would suit Dave Chaffee well. So a tight strap will help. Absolutely. All right, but good point there. Good point there. Ooga Boog says rules are never a problem unless it's Devon. He only wants his rules and a judge that allows him to work pre-hit. Yeah, Devon does do it. Stephen O'Keefe comes in with a massive 1999 super chat. Thank you, Stephen O'Keefe. Making me feel good there, man. Thank you very much. He says, would love your view on the top 5 most technically proficient arm wrestlers in the world, all weight classes. Oh my goodness, big question. All weight classes really does open up. Let me just straight away say it's not Dave Chaffee. Dave Chaffee does not feature in the world's top 5 most technically proficient arm wrestlers. Definitely doesn't. It's not Alex Kurdecha either. Alex Kurdecha, although he is more proficient technically than Dave Chaffee, I don't put him in that top 5. For me, straight away, number 1, I go to Devon Larratt. He spends more time thinking about the sport. So we'll keep this quick because I do want to focus on Kurdecha and Chaffee. But Devon Larratt, number 1, the most technically proficient. You have to put Brisbane in there. Brisbane is complete. He's fully conditioned under all circumstances. He has counters everywhere. He's proven it. He can hook, he can top roll, he can press, he can defend, he can attack, he can flop press from nowhere. He can do all those things. Brisbane is arm wrestling. So those 2 automatic choices. I think everyone expected those in there. Number 3 for me, the next man that I've studied most and that I love on a technical proficient level is Evgeny Prudnik. I think he's incredibly diverse arm wrestler, strong in so many areas, has defense, has counterattack, has offense, has an intuition to go to the right openings at the right time. Evgeny Prudnik, for me, immensely technical. There's a couple of other people that I really love the technical nature of. Someone I'm going to say Pascal Girard. Look, if I thought about this longer, maybe I wouldn't put him in the list, but I have always been a fan of the Swiss legend Pascal Girard. Go and look him up. Go and watch the longest match in the arm wrestling world history, Evgeny Prudnik v. Pascal Girard. I think Pascal Girard wins it after about 13 and a half minutes of arm wrestling. Pascal Girard, one of the most technical posting top rollers you'll ever see. Really phenomenal. And then where else do I go? You said all weight classes. So, if you go down the list of lightweights, there's some incredible. I'm going to say Oleg Cherkasov. I'm a huge fan of Oleg Cherkasov from Russia. I think they're only under 80 kilos, maybe under 75 kilos. But an arm wrestler that uses the torque and the twist of his connective tissue. His counters are amazing. He turns his body just enough at the right time, kind of like a Tom Holland style arm wrestler in that respect, but has the full range of repertoire. One of the best breakdowns I've ever done was an Oleg Cherkasov match. I can't remember who his opponent was, but it was unbelievable. Oleg Cherkasov has to be good. When we get into the lightweights, there's so many arm wrestlers. Engin Terzi has to be mentioned as well. I think I've gone over 5 now. But anyway, that deserves a whole video in itself, Stephen O'Keefe. Thank you very much for the Super Chat 1999 Super Chat. Appreciate it, man. But all right, back to Kurdecha and Chaffee. Guys, this match, of course, is not far away. Where we only have, a few weeks to go before we get to see it. It's going to be special. King of the Table 3 in Dubai will be happening. I think it's March 27. Core Sports pay-per-view is where you're going to see the action. Dave Chaffee, Alex Kurdecha, 2 very unique stories there that are coming together. Alex Kurdecha, the new kid on the block that's just taking the world by storm, and Dave Chaffee, the stalwart, the titan that's been there for a very long time at the top. He will always be there and have a point to prove that he is good to go. So we might wrap that one up there. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end this one. Hope you guys enjoyed that chat. I appreciate you guys coming in as well. I will see you guys again next time as we turn the music up one more time. Thank you very much for joining us today on the live stream. Ryan Bluebone is my name. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe. Make sure you sign up to the pay-per-views as well. There's going to be some big action. I'm going to be taking on Božidar Simonov of Bulgaria very, very shortly. As Marcio comes in with a super chat with a fist bump. Marcio, you are the man. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate all the support. It's a lot of fun. But Arm Fights Unleashed coming up. Dave Chaffee v. Kurdecha coming up. Lots going on in the arm wrestling world. Ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button for me before we go. 112 of you in here. I want to see that go up. And then we're going to be out of here. Guys, thank you so much. My name's Ryan Bowen, and I'm out of here. See you guys.